Well, hello there. Welcome back. I feel as though I've been away for quite a while, and I have. So it's good to be back. So welcome. Today's topic is going to be rather interesting, something that we don't often like to talk about, but it has to be addressed. Ladies, it has to be addressed. This morning we're going to be talking about sex. The session is called The Sacred Gift of Sex. Married couples are at it, not with each other. Unmarried singles are at it. Our young people are at it. Middle-aged and senior citizens are at it. Everybody's at it. I remember there used to be a song way back by Aretha Franklin called Who's Zooming Who? That is what is going on in this town of ours. Who is zooming who? And we're not talking about in marriage. We're talking outside of marriage. The scene has become really bad. Yes, so today, ladies, I'm talking about the gift of sex, which is precious and yet quite destructive when you do it out of place. In other words, when you have sex outside of marriage. Oof, already I'm feeling hot, huh? Anyway, ladies, we're losing it and we actually need to do something about it. We are getting as bad as we always complain about men. But you know what? If we're not on the same level, I don't know, we are really at it the way men are also at it. They're also at it with us. And this is regardless of whether we're married or not. In short, it's actually called immorality. We know about that. What I'll do is I will give you 8 signs that show whether or not you are carrying unhealthy sexual ties and how you can overcome them. So, 8. Are you caught up in this whole sex thing? And how is it affecting you? Because you know what? It really does affect you. I remember long ago, if I had to do my life, if I had to relive my life, you know what? I wouldn't go there before marriage. I really wouldn't. Because the more sexual experiences you have, the more you abuse your body. So what's the big deal about enjoying sex outside of your marriage or before marriage? There's a pull, isn't there? From what I have seen, it's like you see yourself as enjoying having an affair. Obviously, all affairs, I would say, are actually sexual-based. Or you want to have that experience if you're a single person, unmarried. You want to have that hot, breathy, sweaty, 3-minute excitement just to fulfill that sexual desire that you may have at the time. I may sound old-fashioned, but I won't apologize for it. I believe the consequences of taking sex outside of the context that God created it for always has been and always will have serious repercussions for individuals and families. And for women, it's even worse. So what we are doing there, I don't know. But if you're engaging in this fun activity, I would actually say, you know what? If it's outside marriage, it is totally wrong. It's not okay. It comes back to haunt you. So let's look. I'm addressing mainly women because we're the ones who often get hooked into toxic sexual relationships that come back to destroy us, to the point of women wanting to commit suicide because they're in a sexual relationship with this married man. A lot of times it's married man with single women. Or married women with single men, or single men with single women. But the point is, it is still outside the context of what God meant it to be. So I'm talking about, let us stop and think about why are we doing what we are doing and how does it feel afterwards. And you know, ladies, men move on. And that is after you have given away your body, spirit, and soul. It doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel nice. By the way, I've been there. Yeah. So it's not as though I'm sitting here talking about something I've not been there. I've been there. And I learned many, many lessons, which I'm hoping that we are going to learn after we've heard the effects of sex outside marriage. But let's go back to the beginning to understand what sex is about, and especially how we as women get hooked into it outside of marriage, whether you're single or whether you're in a marriage. Why do we get drawn to it? Excuse me. I think we need to start with why did God create sex? When we look at Genesis in the second chapter, God tells us, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. The man and his wife were Adam and Eve. So what is God telling us? Just from there, what is God telling us? Well, sex is basically a complete, intimate joining of body, soul, and spirit between husband and wife. That is the way God created it, where they become glued together as one flesh. Guys, it is so special and sacred, and it is to be treasured and experienced within the context of marriage as God planned it and created it. And when you go outside of it, we know what happens. We know what happens. Possibilities are endless. Ladies, we know, don't we? Yeah, so we won't even go into all that right now. But what I'm curious about is, do you understand what the pull of sex for women having sex outside their marriages or before marriage? Do you understand what the pull is? Most of the time, women associate the sex they have outside marriage as love. Ladies, that isn't love. If you are pushed into, or you are pressured into, or you push and pressure to have sex, that's all it is. It has nothing to do with love. It is about meeting your own physical needs, thinking that if somebody has sex with you outside of marriage, it proves that they love you. But you know what? They don't. They actually don't. And if somebody respects you, they will actually wait for you. They really, really will, because it is going to be for the two of you within the right environment, the right place, in a family situation where there is total commitment from both of you, and the gluing will bring you together as God intended. Wow. So what happens? What happens? What happens? Why are we drawn to this? It's because as women, we feel we need so much to be loved by that person that we are looking to have sex. And when they don't pursue sex, we get worried. We start thinking, oh, maybe he doesn't like me that much. Maybe I'm not attractive that much. You know what? It becomes an affirmation for you. Having sex becomes an affirmation. I'm talking about the numbers of women who are going around doing all this stuff. But there's also a lot of women who are doing it because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Yeah? Because we believe it is meant to be done out of love, that is why we get hooked into he's doing this because he loves me. Yeah? But it's not being done out of love. It's not. It isn't. Ladies, that is not the way it is meant to be. You will end up full of regrets. You really will. You really will. So, what happens is we become negatively addicted to the joining that God intended for husbands and wives, except it's totally, totally out of context. That is why it feels uncomfortable. That is why oftentimes you feel dirty because you know, oh my goodness, did I just do that? You know those one-night stands? You know those affairs in the back seat of the car, the hot, the sweat? Ladies, that's not love. And that is not how God intended. You just end up with horrible, horrible feelings. as well as being affected by, your self-esteem goes down, really, because deep down, you know what I'm doing is not okay. We are talking about outside of marriage. What we are doing when we're having sex outside of marriage, it is about me, what I want, what I need, my flesh, my flesh, my flesh. Thinking that the people we get engaged in sex with, it's about love. No, it isn't. As in all things, when we break God's laws for our own selfish reasons and pleasures outside of the boundaries God has given us, there will and always have been dire consequences. And we'll talk about some of those. And ladies, once men have had sex with you outside of marriage, it's another notch on their bedposts. You know what? These guys talk about it. Some of them even laugh about it. Some of them even challenge each other, like how many have you had? Who are you going for now? For them, it is totally physical. For women, it is physical, spiritual, joining to your soul. So unless it's done within, only then can you feel at peace. Yeah? Men will talk about it nonchalantly, often boasting about it to their male friends. It is not a big deal for them. But for us, it's like, wow. This one I am so caught up in with him. In the meantime, there is a shame that you experienced, which Adam and Eve never felt because it was in the right context. They were naked and they did not feel shame. What do you feel? Can you stand in front of this person you're having an extramarital affair with, or having an affair with outside of his marriage, or having sex outside of marriage if you're a single person? Can you stand there in all nakedness and not feel embarrassed or shame? I challenge you to think about it and admit and actually see just the shame that you carry after such incidences that have been done in darkness. It isn't right. It isn't right. It isn't. It isn't right. Ladies, this is what actually happens when you have sexual experiences, regardless of your marital status. You create within you unhealthy soul ties with the other person you're involved with. What does that mean? What does it mean? It means every time you have sexual intercourse outside of marriage with others, you are creating deep-rooted bonds with the other individual, from their soul to your soul. Even after separation of the sexual experience, one of the parts remain attached to you, whether you like it or not. And you know what I'm talking about. The more outside of marriage sexual relationships you have, the more you become stuck to all the people you've had sex with, and the more you get messed up in your soul, body, and spirit, because you are not doing it in the way it was meant to happen. That's not what it was created for. It was not meant to be for, I need to be affirmed that I am loved through sex. It is for within the marital relationship. Outside of it, you are so going to get caught up in all kinds of ugliness. And again, we know those things. Some of you are probably sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, I completely can relate to that. So, getting caught up in it. This is why when you try and pull apart, when you have been having all these sexual relationships, it is very painful to disconnect the parts because they become a part of you. Soul ties. Every sexual relationship, you're tying your soul to somebody else's soul. plus all their prior sexual history and possible sexual diseases. So you're letting in all this stuff inside of you. And that is really just tying you into all this ugliness. You don't know where the other person has been. They don't know where you have been. So what doors are you actually opening when you do it outside of sex? Outside of marriage? What are you letting into your life, into your body that is meant to be so precious? Not just for fun, not just to be played about with in the most intimate of places. Ladies, if we are doing this, it is going to come back to haunt you. It really, really will, if it already hasn't. So what do you expect with unhealthy soul ties? When you've been going around doing this kind of thing, what happens to you is you end up carrying a lot of shame. This is because deep down, you know that you're doing things in darkness. You're hiding things. And it is out of context. You know, the devil comes around and it's like, yeah, let's keep it in the darkness. Nobody will know, just you and that person. But you know what? You know that it is wrong and it is not okay and that you're hurting other people and yourself. It just becomes an ugly, dark secret, something that never goes away. Now, I'm talking like this, not just to non-Christians. It is everybody, Christians and non-Christians, whatever you are, Muslim, whatever you are. Sex outside marriage comes back to haunt you. Yeah? You also become vulnerable and addicted to sexually abusive relationships. Actually, those are called toxic relationships, where you are desperately unhealthy relationship. You can't live with, you can't live without. Sexual relationships and affairs that leave you angry, desperate, and with low self-esteem. And you know what? When you're lying there in your bed at night, whether you're with your husband or not, you know what you feel. Those feelings are horrible. They work at your spiritual, in your soul. They eat away at you. They eat away at you. Remember, guys, ladies, sorry. This is about you have let the devil into your life to do all this stuff to you. So you get caught up. Sexual bondages are the hardest to actually break away from. Christians and non-Christians. This is what one man of God actually told me. Sexual bondage, very, 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 very hard to break away from. This is because we're misusing what God gave us to glue us together in our marriages. Does it make sense so far? Okay, moving on. You know, there is dead hope for those women who are getting involved with married men. You know that even if they're having sex with you, it is not, doesn't mean anything to them. That's all it is. They hardly ever leave their families, their wives, for the mistresses. So what happens? A lot of the times, you sort of resign to, it's okay, I will be a mistress, it's okay. But you know it isn't okay. You are still faced with shame, embarrassment. You can't be out in the open. You cannot have an honest, transparent relationship because the man is not going, he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. It leaves you with a shame. It leaves you with the horrible feelings. I think worse still, we've got to remember, especially when you're a Christian, your body is the temple of God, precious and sacred. You have been bought with a price if you're a Christian. And if you're not a Christian, you are actually devaluing the most treasured part of who you are, you're actually self-abusing. I hear no end of stories from, listening to radio, how women call in and they say that they're pregnant and he's married and he's also seeing other women. And well, why do we put up with it? Why do you even go there? Don't go there. Don't go there. You're just asking for it. You have got a lot more to yourself. God has given you so much more to yourself to end up in situations that make you feel dirty. Back seats of cars, dark rooms in hotels, or maybe even light rooms, maybe even very expensive rooms. But at the end of the day, you know that is all it was, and you have to get back and he has to get back. What is the point? What is the point? What is the point, ladies? Sometimes it just baffles me, because the levels of immorality that we are now facing in this country of ours is totally unbelievable. Children now start engaging in sex at a very early age. They have seen us. They have heard us. It's becoming the norm. It's a lifestyle. It's become a lifestyle for so many women. Ladies, I'm not just talking about women. Obviously that there are men, because, yeah, it takes two. But what I'm saying is, if we watched ourselves and lived our lives with integrity, Christian or not Christian, we need to protect our bodies for the right times. That way we do not get all this ugliness and dirtiness and illnesses and diseases and getting into funny situations, funny, difficult, hurtful situations, breaking up people's families, having children out of pregnancies, getting pregnant with married men, or even just with men who are not going to commit to you. Ladies, we have got to stop. We can do it. We can do it. What we're actually doing is called immorality. It's immorality because you're doing it because you want to have fun. It is not fun. It isn't fun. It's destructive. Yeah? Okay, let's move on. Do you have unhealthy soul ties? Here are some signs that you have lingering sexual soul ties that you need to break. If you have been having a lifestyle of running around, having sex whenever, however, whatever, out of wedlock or premarital sex, then you need to break the soul ties. You need to break all those ties that have bound you to these people that you have had sex with. So how can you tell if you've got soul ties? 1, you permit the person you are sexually involved with to mistreat and abuse you. I have seen this so many times. And we become like little dogs, little puppies who keep going back. You're kicked in the face, you keep going back. Because you have been hooked, you've been glued to their soul, to their spirit, to their body. Number 2, even when the relationship is over, you can't stop thinking about the other person. Number 3, many times you cannot get over the relationship and will do anything to keep the relationship going. We know that. You know that. You will try everything to keep that person there. Again, remember, I'm not talking about in marriage. I'm talking out of marriage. Single or whether you're married, but outside of marriage. Many times you cannot get over the relationship. After a long period of time, even after you break up, the relationship still brings you emotional pain and depression. Remember, we were talking about how you get into toxic relationships? That is the soul tie. So when you think about it, it brings you emotional pain and even depression. Number 5, every time you see the person or talk to them, even though the relationship is over, you are drawn back to that person. That is how you tell yourself, I'm not going to, and then guess what happens? You end up back in bed with them. And then what happens? You probably get pregnant. Or you probably you kickstart that cycle all over again. You've gotten into a toxic relationship which has been bound by sex outside of marriage. Don't do it, ladies. Don't do it. Another sign that you hear that shows that you've got soul ties, you hear their voices in your head and cannot stop thinking about them. In other words, there isn't room for anything. That whole sexual soul tie is hounding you. When they're not there, you just cannot stop thinking about them. That time that person is going on doing their own thing, you are there like, oh my goodness, you're making phone calls, you're getting panic attacks, you're getting worked up. Not worth it, ladies. Another sign is you cannot bear the thought of breaking up with them. This gives you panic attacks. And ladies, I have seen women who get suicidal. Suicidal thoughts set in because you cannot live without them. Of course you can. Yeah, of course you can, but you need to break the soul ties. Yeah? There'll be times when you see them in your mind as well, when you're intimate with your spouse, if you're married and have been doing, having sexual relationships outside of your marriage. So basically what I'm saying is, how do you know whether or not you have lingering soul ties that need to be broken? You allow the person you're sexually involved with to mistreat and abuse you, and you feel locked in. You can't stop thinking about the person. Many times you cannot get over the relationship and will do anything to keep the relationship going. In other words, you're cheating yourself, really. After a long period of time, the relationship still brings you emotional pain and even depression after you've broken up. Every time you see the person or talk to them, even though the relationship is over, you are so drawn back to that person. You cannot bear the thought of breaking up with them. It gives you panic attacks and you want to kill yourself. Not worth it, by the way. And you're constantly seeing that person in your mind, even when you are with your marital, your spouse. You keep on seeing that person. Yeah? So those are just signs for you to realize and to check out, do I have soul ties here? Do I have soul ties? As I'd said, soul ties need to be broken. If you have an ungodly sexual soul tie at some time in your past, that has not been broken, it will actually hinder any future relationships that you enter into. It will keep you from properly bonding with your spouse, your future spouse, your potential spouse. And if you've gotten a divorce, those soul ties from that marriage may still be there. So even those need to be broken. I'll give you 4 keys to breaking soul ties. Number 1, acknowledge. First, we need to acknowledge that there is a problem. Ask God to show you who you have ungodly soul ties with. If you don't talk to God, make a list. Make a list of all the people you have been sexually involved with outside of marriage. All of them. Make a list of them. Next, number 2, confess and repent. Because it has been behavior that has hurt yourself and others. And it has been wrong. So repent and confess. This may actually involve finding an accountability female partner that you can confess to and who can help you walk through the process. Pick somebody who is not going to go and break your trust as well. Yeah? Number 3, forgive. We need to accept God's forgiveness, and we need to forgive ourselves. And lastly, we need to forgive our former partners or abusers, because you could have been abused, which makes it a slightly different situation, because you were doing it not because you wanted to do it, but because you were forced into it. So there's a lot of forgiveness to be done. Finally, break and remove. You need to verbalize a prayer to break off the soul ties. You need to speak it out loud. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Speak it out. So when you speak out, you are declaring with your mouth the power of Christ to break the ties to your past. And another thing that I know I did was I removed all mementos, gifts, souvenirs, everything of those people that I may have come in relationship with. Yeah? Remove them. Remove them. Remove them all. Remove them all. Get them out of your life completely, so that you are starting afresh. All this may sound extremely difficult, but it isn't, ladies. At the end of the day, what kind of a legacy do you want to leave your children? If you've got soul ties, destroy them. Destroy them, destroy them, destroy them. Defeat that enemy. And move on from that kind of a lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. In the Bible, in the book of Corinthians, we are told, flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. I don't want to sin against my own body, do you? Sex is therefore not just sex. If you've had sex before marriage or are having or had extramarital affairs, all hope is not lost. Our God is such a forgiving Father. He is more than able to forgive you. Turn away from all sexual immorality, ladies. It destroys you. It brings all kinds of things into your body, into your soul, into your spirit. That is ugliness, and it doesn't get better. Ladies, if you're single, separated, or divorced, and are struggling with burning passion, continue to wait patiently for the right time for you to enjoy the gift of sex, because it's a gift. Pray for the Lord to bring you a faithful and God-fearing spouse. Sex is a wonderful privilege that comes with responsibility. It is not about hot breath, weak knees, fulfilling my fleshly desires. That's not how God meant it to be. May you be blessed as you relish the gift our Father gave us, the joy and wonder of sexual reunion within the bounds of marriage. I have spoken, not as though I've not been there, because I was married for a long time and I did have experience of my ex-husband having plenty of affairs, and I know it affected me. But I still had my soul ties to him. It is not worth it. You are so much more valuable than that. Wait, wait, wait. You will not have to regret it. God bless you. Till next time, take care.